In this movie, we'll learn how to add and delete rows and columns in our tables. Probably the easiest and most common method of adding an additional row to a table is to place your cursor in the very last cell in the lower right-hand corner of the table and just press the Tab key on your keyboard. That adds an additional row to the bottom of the table, and that makes sense because a lot of the times you'll be entering data into a table and realize that you didn't create enough rows. So instead of having to jump through a bunch of dialog boxes when you reach that last cell, you just press Tab to create a new row and continue typing. So this might be, say, dues. And we'll just put in 800 and tab to the next cell, and we increase to 1200. And once I reach the end of that column, if I had another row of data to add, again, we just press Tab, and we can just continue typing without having to go through any dialog boxes or even touch the mouse. If you want to add another row somewhere between existing rows instead of to the bottom of the table, just click in the row above where you want the new row to appear, right here in the T-shirts row, for instance. And then up here in the toolbar, click the Insert Row Below button, which, as you can see, inserts a new row below the row that I was in. Additionally, there are commands in the table menu that let you insert a new row and specify whether you want the new row to be above or below the currently selected row. So in this case, if I put my cursor somewhere in digital sales, I can go to Table, Insert, and I can choose row above or row below. So if I choose row above, that new row appears above that row that I was in. Notice also that there's a keyboard command for row above, Command M, or if you're on Windows, it'll be Control M. And I use that keyboard command all the time when I need to create a new row. For me, it's much easier to just click in the row and then hit Command M to create a new row above it than it is to click in the table and then come up to the toolbar to click the Add Row button. To insert columns, you have similar options. Just click inside the table, and then just click the New Column button, and you can see it's the insert column to the right. So if I click there, if there were a year between 2005 and 2006, I could have a new column there. I'll undo that. Or, let me go into 2006 here. You may have already noticed that you can select Table, Insert, and we have column to the left or column to the right here. So I wanted to add an additional column to the right. For 2007, I could certainly do that. Now, there will be times when you'll want to insert multiple new rows or multiple new columns. So instead of having to sit there and hit the new row or new column button over and over again, just put your cursor somewhere in the table, wherever you want the new row or column to appear, and go to the Table menu and choose Insert, Multiple Rows or Columns. And from here, you can determine whether you want to insert rows or columns. If I wanted rows, I could choose how many rows I wanted to enter in there, and I can say whether I want them to be before or after the current row. Or if I wanted columns, I could enter as many columns as I wanted, and I could say whether I wanted them to be before or after the current column. Click on OK, and there are my brand new columns. Now you notice that the table is not expanding because I have a pixel-based table here. I set it to be 300 pixels wide, so you can see that the cells are getting much more cramped, but the table itself is not expanding. So that's the property of a pixel-based table. Now, what if you want to get rid of some rows or columns? Well, pretty easy to do. You just have to select the row or column you want to get rid of. If I want to get rid of this row, I can just select it, hit the delete key on my keyboard, and that row is gone. I can select multiple columns. I showed you how to do that in one of the previous movies on selecting areas of your table. Just hit delete, and those are gone. I click in here. You can also come up to the table menu to delete, and you can choose to delete the row, but for me, why not just hit the delete key on your keyboard, like so. Now, one thing I want to point out is that what you can't do is select a single cell, like maybe this one here, and just delete that. You have to delete entire rows or entire columns, because a table always has to be a rectangle. I can't have a table with some weird cutout here where there's a missing cell, and I can't select multiple cells and delete them either. If I want to get rid of cells, I have to delete the entire column or the entire row that they happen to be in, like so.